Welcome everyone. Thanks for staying with us. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Shivani Gupta. In a setback for West Bengal government, the Supreme Court of India has made some strong observations while lifting the ban on the film The Kerala Story in the state. The court believes the ban order suffered from overbreadth and was not based on any material produced before the court. A bench headed by the CGI also directed Tamil Nadu government to ensure all security arrangements at theatres so that the film can be screened. Representing the producer, senior advocate Harish Salve argued the West Bengal government had pointed out just 13 incidents where the person believed that the film could cause riots. He even argued that in Tamil Nadu, multiplex owners are pulling back a film which is otherwise houseful, which clearly shows that it wasn't because of low public response. On the other hand, Abhishek Manu Singhvi, representing the Bengal government, argued the ban order was just to prevent a future breach of peace as the demographic profile of the state is very different. The Chief Justice of India observed that the exercise of power has to be proportional and any kind of intolerance cannot be tolerated. When the government and the police highlighted the 32,000 figure in the trailer and even in the movie, the CGI directed the filmmakers to put a disclaimer that this is not an authentic data. The CGI even warned the producers and by large the entire community that as much as the court protects freedom of speech, the filmmakers or any form of art cannot vilify a community. So is this another win for fundamental rights of the public and freedom of expression of artists? We'll take that to our special guest joining us in just a bit, but let me take you through the key takeaways from the Supreme Court verdict today. So the biggest takeaway is that the ban on the film The Kerala Story will now have to be lifted in the state of West Bengal. West Bengal government's ban order, the court says, wasn't tenable on the basis of material produced in court. Takeaway 3, security has to be beefed up at cinema halls in Tamil Nadu where there was a de facto ban on this film. A film cannot be used to vilify a community, as I mentioned, is another big statement coming in from the court. And takeaway 5, fundamental rights are not dependent on public emotion. So there's a fundamental right of people to be able to watch this movie that cannot be denied just because some people may erupt in some sort of an emotional response. In fact, let me break down some of the important arguments and back and forth that took place in the court today, which will give you an idea not just of where each side stood, but also what the court felt. So the filmmakers mentioned that the teaser, which mentioned the figure of 32,000 women missing, has already been taken down. This figure keeps coming back to haunt the film and the filmmakers. But the West Bengal police to this objected to it, saying that the movie still mentions this figure, which has been a big bone of contention. Now, the West Bengal government objected to the fact that there's been a public display of emotion because of this movie. They added that they don't have a problem if people watch at home, for example, on OTT. To this, the CGI argued that fundamental rights cannot be left dependent on public display of emotions. West Bengal government also argued that there is a public order and preventative power of the state government under which they've taken a call to ban this film. To this too, the CGI countered by saying that Section 6, which gives the state this power, cannot be used to put premium on public intolerance. West Bengal government said that intelligence reports suggested to them that there was a serious threat to public order, as we've mentioned before. But CGI questioned them and asked them if they are basing this entire report on just 13 people and what they say. Because fundamentally, there have been no disturbances on ground in West Bengal or even other states. Then West Bengal government also argued that the demographics of the state are very different to other parts of the country, so that should be considered. The CGI countered this by saying that demographics cannot be the same everywhere, but there should be a proportional application of the state's power. The CGI did raise the issue of the figure of 32,000 though and called it misleading. To this, the filmmakers said that they will now clarify in their disclaimer that there is in fact no authentic data available as far as the number of women missing is concerned. So first up on Plain Speak today, the big Kerala story storm. This ban has been lifted in West Bengal. Is this a fundamental win for fundamental rights and also freedom of expression?
The Honorable Chief Minister took a call because she is the administrative head of her state and she knows best what is best for her state.
they started asking questions first. Then they will confuse us and then criticizing our religion, our customs, rituals, everything, and slowly inject their dangerous ideology to our brain.
सच्चाई की एक इतना पावर है ना, इतना पावर है सच्चाई की, आप कुछ भी कर लीजिए, जिस दिन वो अपने कटघरा में खड़ा किया जाएगा ना, सच्चाई जीतेगा। तो इनकी स्टोरी जो दुनिया सुनने के लिए सुनना चाहिए था, ये इंसानियत के तौर पे आज सुने।
हम पहले दिन से समझते थे कि कठिनाइयाँ आएंगी, बट अगर हमारी ये जिम्मेदारी है कि हम इन लड़कियों की कहानी को लोगों के सामने ले आएं, तो फिर कोई कठिनाई मायने नहीं रखती।
I want to go across to Vani Tripathi, who's a CBFC board member currently. Vani, thanks a lot for your time. Would you say that this order by the Supreme Court is a win for the film industry, especially artists and their freedom of expression via movies or any form of art?
Well, I've always said that the jurisprudence of this country has always stood for the creative freedom of filmmakers and writers, and also for, the proactivism that you always see in the judiciary in India has always protected the rights of creative intellectuals. But having said that, I think this judgment also goes beyond and says something that I said, Shivani, very much on your channel the day the whole controversy around Kerala stories broke out, where I said that after the Central Board of Film Certification has certified a film, then despite the fact that we are a federal democracy, it is undemocratic on the part of the state government to put a ban on the film, because the CBFC, under the Cinematograph Act of 1952, is formulated by the Constitution of India. Right. So this means that there is no respect, there is no honor for the very fact that CBFC is the prime body which only works for certification of theatrical releases of films. That means there is no honor for the system. There is no honor for the Constitution of India. Yes, it's a big day and another leap forward in, protecting the freedom of the film industry, of creative minds, of filmmakers. But let's also say that justice has been served. Okay. Also, you have seen in the last 2 weeks the amount of amazing response the film has gotten. That itself, I think, full marks to my dear friend Vipul Shah, that, despite all the heartburn and all the difficulty he faced to, find release of the film, despite the CBFC certification, I think he stands vindicated. The film industry stands vindicated.
All right. I do want to ask you a follow-up on that. You talked about the CBFC's position and how it's undemocratic to then, after their certification, ban a movie. But this isn't the first time this has happened. This will possibly not be the last time. I do want to ask you, though, that this judgment will then be another precedent, because there are precedents in the past too, where the position of the CBFC is going to be maintained and honoured. And would you say this will serve as a reminder to other governments to not indulge in these bans in the future?
Well, frankly, the CBFC would never want that despite certifying a film, any film should land in the court, whether it's the High Court or the Supreme Court, because we should be the last ladder of certification before the film, gets out in the theaters. I think more than the CBFC itself, I said the other day also on your show that the whole board gets disappointed for the kind of hard work we do each day to, uphold creative freedom in the country. Okay. I know there have been controversies in the past related to CBFC also, but I think in the past few years, this is the first time there is a board where every single member belongs to the film industry or the theatre world or to the writing world or to literature or to music and so on. So now, of course, there is a board which is highly sensitive towards the needs, of filmmakers and also to sensitive subjects, We are a hypersensitive democracy after all. And I would not pretend to say otherwise. We do have sensitive zones, minority rights, rights of women, rights of children, which always need to be upheld. But I think, yes, you're right. It does, it should send out a signal to all those people who have some kind of totalitarianism in their minds, and they think that creative freedom is some kind of a coin which they can put in their pocket and run away.
Okay.
After all, there is a law of the land, there is also the Constitution of India, there is a judiciary, and there is a CBFC. We all work almost in tandem with each other. And somebody who wishes to, put a part of tangent, in opposition to it, I think the judiciary is there. This is a good rap on the knuckles, of the state government, which thought that it will get away with it, and it will get away with it easily.
Okay. I also find it hypocritical personally that when we talk about some films and even the question of a public boycott, not bans, we're often reminded about how artists are involved, their livelihoods are involved, but nobody really thought of that when this movie was involved and a ban on it was involved in one state. The reason I also bring this up is, Vani, because I spoke to Vipul when they went to court to challenge this ban, and he was very anxious that even if the ban is uplifted, what about the days they lose, the revenue they lose, the number of people who don't get to watch it, become frustrated and go to pirated versions. So as an artist yourself, would you like to talk about that aspect, which, sometimes people bring up, they don't bring up on other occasions, which is, a political convenience, but the hardships that the industry or the filmmakers or the artists go when such an action is taken?
Shivani, it's a very good question and full marks to you, because I also know you as a journalist from your past avatars, and how much work you've also done with artists in the past, despite being a political bureau of a big channel now, so very good question. See, the first thing which is very important, I'm also a producer, is that months and years of hard work goes into creating a film. I also, when I certify a film, I'm letting out something personal. I don't generally speak about it. But the process of certification has to be extremely objective. I could have hundreds of opinions in my head when I'm watching a film, whether the film is good or bad creatively. I literally have to throw out all those when I'm certifying a film, because I only have to objectively look at the certification part, which is called age-related classification. So when all this hard work is going into this, and a producer has to go through this kind of heartburn, remember, it's almost like tenderhook. It's not just the revenue that he's lost. Imagine there are also censor boards or certification boards outside the country. The international territory also looks closely at, what's happening in a court of law inside a country with a film where it is produced. I'm in Singapore just now. If I am not correct, if I am not wrong, this Friday, Kerala Story was supposed to release. I think it's still not in the theaters in Singapore.
Okay.
I also remember that, let me take you back to the most controversial and one of the most talked about films of our time. Obviously, a few decades before, probably you and I were in school at that time, Bandit Queen. And I've grown up with Shekhar Kapoor, who's really like family to me. And I know that finally, despite all the opinion which was around the book and the film, and it was the life of somebody who was one of the most famous dacoits of India, and her own story had so much trauma behind it, the reprieve for the film after a whole year of struggle came from the Supreme Court. So no filmmaker, big or small or medium, or independent, or from a studio, obviously we have so many nomenclatures today in the film industry, should ever go through what Vipul Shah has gone through, or what Shekhar Kapoor went through. Imagine, Shekhar at that time had problems with CBFC, which finally went into court. This time the CBFC is certified,
but the movie
and a
was
vigilante government, I'm sorry I'm using this word, it's undemocratic, it's illegal to do this. And I'm also telling you that this should also set a precedent for any government whatsoever at the federal structure of democracy in our country. If they think that they can stop the public exhibition of a film after a CBFC certificate, then I'm telling you the courts are going to take the same opinion. Let me also tell you that the first reason they gave was law and order.
Yes.
Now, law and order is whose responsibility? When you and I go into a theatre and watch a film, a 500-seater, a 1,000-odd-seater, a 100-odd-seater, we go with the trust that our lives are secure because the law of the land of that state has taken it upon themselves that that theatre will remain secure. Tomorrow, if you will come back and you will say, oh, I'm fearing law and order, which means you have no control of law and order in your own state. Because now, see, for the past 2 weeks, the film is successfully running all over the country. Nothing has happened. There is no untoward incident which has happened. If this was what was your question, then what happened elsewhere? Which means that you are also conceding almost a defeat, that you are not capable enough of securing the people of your land.
Okay.
Also within the order which I just read before I came on your show, the Supreme Court very clearly says that all theatres will be provided security by the government, when the film finally releases in theatres. Now, I hope this doesn't become an ego tussle between, the Honorable Chief Minister of a state and, despite the rap on the knuckles from the Supreme Court. I hope, and I congratulate Vipul Shah and his team, and I hope the film successfully gets a release in West Bengal, and people will decide the fate of the film, as I said that day also.
Right.
It is not upon us. It is also not upon a critic. It is not also upon an analyst. We are a democracy. Let people decide what they wish to see and what they wish to throw.
That's exactly the message from the court. And Vani, as I thank you, I just hope that there are no events now that take place in West Bengal that seek to either disrupt this movie or bring it into disrepute. It will now be the responsibility of all state governments to ensure that people watching this film, people who want to watch this film, people who come out of the theatres are all secure, and nobody is allowed to use that hurt sentiment business or disrupt law and order to bring the film into disrepute now. I thank